So the console wars have officially come to an end. This is something that really was starting to brew up at the end of last year when it was announced that Microsoft was going to put a bunch of their games onto the PlayStation. And now it seems that even more games are coming. Indiana Jones was obviously recently announced, and we're inevitably going to get a PS5 version of Starfield, and it seems also very likely that in the not too distant future, we're going to get Halo and Gears of War on the PlayStation as well. It's crazy, like, because those are like the flagship exclusive games. To just see those games, to visualize them on the PlayStation Store, is just going to be an insane thing. It's going to be like Nintendo fans in the early 2000s when Sonic came to the GameCube. You know, like, it's just absolutely surreal. But it begs the question, what is the point of having PlayStation and Xbox to have two competing consoles if one console puts all their games on the other while the other console does not do that? PlayStation has no plans on putting their games on Xbox. They are putting their games on PC. So if you're a PC gamer, you get every game pretty much. PlayStation, Xbox, and even most Nintendo games if you use emulators. So it's it's a very interesting dynamic that we now find ourselves in. And I wonder what this means for the future of the gaming industry. Sony essentially being completely unopposed going forward, because there is literally no incentive. I know people are going to talk about Game Pass and the Microsoft Xbox ecosystem having some kind of appeal over PlayStation, but as of right now, the sales numbers for the Series X compared to the PlayStation 5, it is not even close. Sony is wiping the floor with Microsoft, as they had been the previous generation, and also the 6th generation between the PS2 and original Xbox. That also was a complete blowout, but to be fair, it was their first entry in the console market. Then, of course, with the 360 versus PS3, it was basically a dead heat. Definitely the most exciting console war in all of gaming history. The second would probably be the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of debate just on that alone in the comment section. If you were around during the 16-bit era, you're going to have some words to say about me. But, oh man, it's insane how much console gaming has changed over the past decade or so, going back to the days where I had my whole PowerPoint presentations on how console gaming is so much better than PC, and PC gaming is trash and is garbage. Yeah, a lot has changed since then. It was a number of years ago that I made the switch, that I made the jump from console to PC, and a huge sticking point for me was like, okay, if they're going to put these games on PC anyway, because Microsoft started to do that back in 2015, 2016, and it wasn't until, I think, 2019 or 2020 that Sony started doing it. But once that happened, I'm like, yeah, there is literally no reason for me to buy these consoles for $500 a piece, spend however another, like, I don't know, $200 combined for the paid online aspect, right? But on Steam, I don't have paid online. I have access to all these games, including all the games that you can play on PC, but nowhere else. So it just became a no-brainer, especially as the current generation of consoles started to come along. I'm like, yeah, I can spend $500 on a PS5, or I can spend $500 on a new graphics card. That just sounded a lot more appealing to me, and that's what I ended up doing. But I think you guys have definitely heard the rumors about the next-gen Xbox coming in 2027. That was the previous video I made on the channel, and I'm sure at this point it's a story that you're all familiar with, but the TLDR of that is that Microsoft is planning on essentially giving us a custom PC in the format of a console. So it's going to have a lot more in common with the Alienware Alpha and the Steam machines than a traditional Xbox console. It's going to fully run Windows and is going to basically be a PC. Like, it's going to have all the features and everything you would come to expect. I don't know if you can actually upgrade these machines. That's the one thing we don't know yet, but that's pretty much the direction Microsoft's going in. They're going to continue making hardware, but it's really going to be a backdrop and just basically an advertisement for Game Pass. So, what does that mean for Sony? I mean, Sony is trying with their PlayStation Plus Premium to kind of go against Game Pass. Obviously, Game Pass has way more market share than any other company right now that's trying to enter the game subscription whole, that whole ecosystem. So Microsoft has a huge advantage going in, if we're just talking about that. But when we're talking about game sales, when we're talking about console sales, and all these other things, Sony has got them beat by way beyond. And that's before they're putting all their games on PlayStation 5. The thing is with Microsoft, they go in this direction. They release all their games on PC, which they continue to do. They keep releasing all their games on PlayStation. And then their actual Xbox console, in heavy air quotes, you can actually run games on Steam and buy games off of Steam. Like, what? So, what is the point? Like, so basically the Xbox store is going to be eliminated 100% completely. Like, with this move. There is no incentive for anyone to actually buy games on the Xbox store and the Microsoft platform. And you can kind of scoff at that, be like, well, Game Pass is their main focus. Sure, it's their main focus, but that's billions of dollars that they're pretty much leaving on the table and are telling their customers, yeah, we're allowing you to buy all our games on all these other storefronts, and we get basically little in return. Like, they're coming at this is not something a company does from a position of strength. I know they're one of the largest corporations in the world. When it comes to the actual Xbox gaming division, if they were killing it, if they were just destroying the PlayStation 5 or, even the PS4, the last generation, none of these moves would have been made. This really is very similar, but obviously a different situation. It's very similar to Sega just saying fuck it and releasing all their games on all these other consoles so they can increase their revenue and make more money. Because, face it, PlayStation, it has just been dominating the console gaming market, and it's not even close. You can talk about Nintendo, and we will, but the fact of the matter is, they're two completely different devices that are designed for completely different people. So, like, the whole handheld aspect of the Nintendo Switch, and soon to be the Nintendo Switch 2, like, I know the vast majority of people I know, they have both a PlayStation and a Switch, because they serve completely different purposes. So, I don't necessarily view that as competition. Not on the same level, at least, as I would have with PlayStation versus Xbox. But essentially, Microsoft's betting everything on Game Pass right now, which seems like a great thing for a lot of people. Oh my god, Game Pass is so great. I get all these games, and I only pay, the price keeps increasing. It used to be $10 a month, and now it's even high. They've increased the price like 3 or 4 times. This is going to be Netflix all over again. What is everyone complaining about right now with the TV, movie streaming industry is that it's gotten completely out of control with all these different subscription services, and you paying so much, you end up paying more in a lot of cases than your traditional cable subscription. So this seems like a great thing, game subscription services, the day and date releases and everything, but really what it does is it devalues a lot of these games that are coming out, because your perception is like, oh, well, this is part of my subscription. It's like a Netflix movie compared to a major blockbuster theatrical release. Your whole perception and your expectations are going to be wildly different compared to the two. And that's going to be the same case when you compare a Game Pass title to an actual full-on game release. That's like $60, $70, whatever. So, I mean, I've beaten this dead horse plenty of times. If you want to hear more discussion about Game Pass and why it's bad for gaming, then you can check out some of my older videos. But it's, I think this is honestly a very concerning trend. Because if you are a console gamer, which I honestly think at this point, everybody should be transitioning to PC. I know it sounds like an elitist attitude, like, oh, everyone needs to convert, and they need to go to PC and console gaming. Well, it's because of what's been going on. Because they're giving you less and less and less and less and less incentive to actually own a console. Compared to the old PS3 and 360 days, there are so many games, both first-party and third-party, that you simply could not play on PC. You could only play on the PlayStation 3 or 360, and that was that. So I ended up, and a lot of people had both consoles in order to get access to all these games. And it's the console gaming just seems like a joke. It seems like a shell of what it used to be. And I still don't understand why anyone in 2025 still owns one personally, especially spending like so much money just on the annual subscription alone. Long term, you're spending more money than if you just bought a PC outright, and obviously a PC you can do a lot more than you could do on a console. But again, this is all stuff that I've talked about before, but I just think it's completely fascinating, like just how the console landscape has changed, and in a mostly negative way, if we're going to be honest. And Microsoft is basically waving the white flag and telling Sony, the floor is yours. Do what you want. And Sony absolutely will. So expect PlayStation Plus to increase. Expect a lot of anti-consumer shit to be done on Sony's part, because you're going to have nowhere else to go. Especially if these rumors are true, specifically about the Xbox for the next generation, is that they're actually trying to profit off of the device itself, which is atypical for a console, is that they typically sell the console at a loss, hoping that your purchases of games kind of makes up for that loss, and they end up making more money in the long term. It's like an investment, right? But with the Xbox, apparently, it can go up to like $1,000 and beyond. And the PlayStation 6 is definitely going to be cheaper than the next-gen Xbox. So, any way you slice it, man, this does not look like... These are monopolistic conditions, and it's not going to be good for anybody. The consumer is going to get screwed over. So while people are celebrating and are happy about the new direction Microsoft's headed in, or excited about Game Pass and everything else that they're coming up with right now, I think in a few years the situation's going to be very grim, especially as we enter the 10th generation of consoles in the next couple of years. So, yeah, it'll be crazy to see how it all unfolds, but it is very safe to say that the console wars as we know it is officially over. There is no more console wars. There's no more PlayStation versus Xbox. The fanboys arguing which console is better and which games are better, because you have all the same games now, pretty much. Well, I guess the PlayStation fans would at least have a little bit more to argue about, because, I mean, if you're arguing against a PC gamer, you're going to lose. But if you're like a PlayStation versus Xbox, Microsoft's putting all their games on PlayStation, and PlayStation's not doing the same thing in return. So the debate is pretty clear, and there's an obvious winner there. So it's just kind of, it's not fun anymore to talk about these things, because it's just so bland and boring compared to how it used to be like 15 plus years ago, you know what I mean? So, it sucks. But I guess all good things must come to an end.